Good day, cyber listeners, and welcome back to CyberSecureOT, the show where we take a look at the week's biggest digital disasters and try to find the humor in the fact that our entire world is now being held together with a digital equivalent of duct tape and a wish. I'm your host, Dennis, and this week it all came down to a single question. Do you trust your firewall? Well, do you, punk? Because apparently the answer for a lot of people is probably not. The past 7 days have been a whirlwind of bad news for our critical infrastructure. It started with a collective sigh of dread across Europe as major airports, including the big ones like London's Heathrow, found their systems and their passengers in a state of absolute cyber purgatory. It was a ransomware attack that hit an aviation IT vendor, and suddenly the airlines were forced to revert to what I can only describe as the digital dark ages. I'm talking about manual check-ins, long queues, and the horrifying prospect of the return to, wait for it, paper tickets. I'm sure somewhere a team of hackers was high-fiving because that's exactly what they wanted to have happen. They were delighted to recreate the 1980s at an international scale, all from the comfort of their keyboard. These were probably the sophisticated ones. But wait, there's more. Just as the airlines were getting their paper cuts under control, the US decided to get in on the fun. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, aka CISA, issued an emergency directive. And when CISA issues an emergency directive for the government, it's not like your mom telling you to clean the room, it's essentially the equivalent of a fire alarm going off inside of a building with people who have to protect a bunch of flammable data listening to CISA. The problem was a vulnerability, a 0-day vulnerability, which is one that hasn't released a patch yet, or the vendor hasn't released a patch yet for, existed in Cisco's firewall software. Cisco is a top-tier firewall provider, one of the largest in the country and in the nation, or in the world actually, that was being actively exploited by what's only referred to as a very sophisticated threat actor. And of course, right, top tier firewall vendor, firewall's been exposed. Of course, if it's being exploited, it's got to be exploited by someone who's very sophisticated. It couldn't just be anybody off the street. But basically, there's like this bunch of cyber ninjas out there, right, who found a secret backdoor in a device. That device that's literally supposed to keep them out and keep people who aren't supposed to be in there out. So it's like installing a state-of-the-art security system on your home and then leaving the key under the welcome mat right there by the front door and just hoping nobody's ever going to look there, essentially. The sophisticated people will, but the average person won't. So, CISA's directive basically told federal agencies, and you're going to love this, hey, your stuff might be compromised. Go check it immediately. And if it is, well, maybe just unplug it. Because that won't take things down. That'll fix the problem, right? At least temporarily. We'll figure out the rest later. But if you unplug a firewall, you usually take the connection down. If you have the connection without the firewall, then you have no security. So not really sure what that means. And if you thought that was bad, or if you thought that wasn't bad enough, this one hits a little closer to home. We've also got a new report this week from BitSight, a company that looks at this stuff for a living. We're talking about critical infrastructure here. They warned that the number of industrial control systems, those are the systems that we call operational technologies, they usually have like big motorized control systems that are connected to computers, essentially, that help pump water, feed water to our houses, produce electricity, manufacturing plants that control the process lines and that kind of stuff. Well, that number that's exposed to the internet, that's on the rise again. And this is one where, as an industry, we thought we had it, a better handle on it, but apparently someone looked at a water treatment plant somewhere and said, hey, well, I think the best thing to do with this system is just to give it a good old-fashioned, publicly accessible IP address. And it's probably for functionality or some other excuse, but it's not okay, people. It's the internet equivalent of putting a giant flashing hack me sign on every single utility in the country, essentially. On a brighter note, and this is good news, so you're going to love to hear this, there have been more arrests linked to the notorious Scattered Spider hacking group. It's a small victory, but it's a victory nonetheless. It's nice to know that not all the bad guys are getting away with it. Maybe the less sophisticated ones are getting caught, right? Not the ones that are, taking out Cisco's firewalls or trying to hack into our utilities. I don't know. I'm sure somewhere in a jail cell, a very confused hacker is just trying to explain to their cellmate that they got caught because they put their real name on their Discord server. So to sum it up this week, your travel plans were a mess. Your government's firewalls, well, they're a hot, stinky mess. And the very systems that keep your lights on and your water running are apparently out there on the internet just waiting to cause you a mess. But hey, on the bright side, at least we're all in this cyberspace ship together, and it's not like it's venting atmosphere rapidly and we're all about to run out of air at a record pace. Well, that's all the time we have for you this week. Stay safe out there, and for goodness sakes, if you have technologies, patch your technologies, patch your Cisco firewalls. It's not a suggestion. I'm not asking you, have you patched lately? It's a plea. Do it